I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm alive. I thought I was going to die. I thought I was a goner this week. As you can see in the burrito, I was feeling pretty cocky before, not great during. Afterwards, man, I was walking out. I was a champ. I was feeling great. You guys, Caleb, I was on top. I could play basketball. And then it was about 3 hours later. I'm driving home and I'm breaking the speed limit just to get home because Kelsey's looking at me and she's like, "You're gonna throw up." And I'm like, "I think so too." So we made a pit stop about a mile before the house, and I won't tell you, but I was in the ditch for about 5 minutes. Was not good. I thought I was gonna have to go to the hospital. My body started shaking, and the thing is, I got to go home afterwards. Nate had to work, so I cannot imagine. So big props to Nate. Thanks. I hope you guys got some humor out of that, because if you didn't, then it literally was for nothing. So I'm glad I heard a few chuckles here and there, because we do it. I think we do it for you guys. I don't think we do it because it's fun. It's fun. I don't know. We're not going to go into it. Oh. I want to tell you a quick story. I have it right here. It says, when 67-year-old carpenter Russell Herman died in 1994, he included a staggering set of requests, including in his plan for distribution for his money he was leaving behind was more than $2 billion for the city of East St. Louis, another $1.5 billion for the state of Illinois, $2.5 billion for the national forest system, and to top off the list, Herman left $6 trillion to the government to help pay off the national debt. That sounds amazingly generous, right? That's above and beyond. I mean, what a legacy to leave behind. The only problem is the only asset he had was a 1983 Oldsmobile. So I can imagine his lawyers were probably pretty confused at that point. But I think about all the promises he made and how, it was just, a very generous offer, but he couldn't back it up. And it reminds me, when I was reading that story, I was thinking about Demi, because she's almost 3 now, and we're going to be having a dinosaur-themed party, so look forward to that. And she's almost 3, and she's very, very generous. As a parent, you want your kid to be generous, right? You want them to share. You want them, and Demi's almost never had a problem with that, except for the occasional toy with her cousins or something. But usually, if I grab some of her food, she'll offer it. She'll give it to me. She'll give me half of her chocolate or whatever. She's very good, but she's very playful in her mind right now, where she's very imaginative, where she has this kitchen set, right? She has this Minnie Mouse, right? Minnie Mouse kitchen set in her room, and man, she is amazing, because she probably watches her daddy cook all the time, because she turns on the knob, then puts it in the oven, waits, and then she'll turn the knob and then put the pot on and all these things, and she's just imaginative, and when we play for 5 minutes right before bed, 5 minutes, then night, she knows that. So most of the time she cooks for us, and so she'll come up to Kelsey with a plate with nothing and a cup with nothing in it, and then she'll say, "I made you ice cream," or whatever it is, and then Kelsey will be polite, she'll eat it, and then take a sip, very good, and then give it back to her. You like, and then she'll give it to me, which I will take a drink, and I'll go, "What is this? Are you kidding me? What is this? Well, you messed it all up." And then the creme brulee is burnt. It's not caramelized. Send it back to the kitchen, please. And she said, "Oh, okay." And she'll crack up and she'll run back and make me another one. And so we just have 2 different personalities. But she's very, very generous. And so the only reason I tell you those 2 stories is because no matter how many times I fail, I try to be like Jesus. And when Jesus is talking about giving in Matthew 13, that's where we're going to be at just for now. So if you want to switch here, you can. Matthew 13, he's talking about giving. And he's talking about sacrifice and what you should give up in your life. And he tells you 2 different stories. It's like, you tell your kid one way, and then you just say, okay, you're obviously not understanding. Let me tell you a different way, right? I think that's what Jesus was kind of doing, just giving these parables to them. So Matthew 13, verse 44, it says, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then his joy went and sold all he had and bought the field." Crazy, right? Imagine going for a walk, finding treasure. Oh, that's great. And then going home, wife thinks you're just going out for a walk, and then you come back and sell everything. Little bit of shock right there. So in verse 45, it continues. It says, again, Jesus is saying again. Let me explain it to you another way. "The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went and sold everything he had and bought it." Okay, so Jesus is telling us this is a great reaction to finding Christ, right? That's the reaction we should have when we find something that's the most valuable thing in the world, something that we could never earn, something that we could never inherit or design. We find it, and it's there for the taking. We want it, right? We take it, we do everything we can to possess that. And so that's what those people did. And now with every reaction, there's an opposite reaction, right? So if you look in Mark 10, you don't have to. I think I have them all up here, so no worries. Mark 10, 17 through 27, we hear of a different reaction to Christ. It says, as he was setting out on a journey, a man ran up to him, Jesus, and knelt before him and asked him, "Good teacher, what shall I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus said to him, "Why do you call me good? No one is good except God alone. You know the commandments: do not murder, do not commit adultery, do not steal, do not bear false witness, do not defraud, honor your father and mother." He said to him, "Teacher, I have kept all of these things from my youth up." Looking at him, Jesus felt a love for him and said, "Have one thing you lack. Go and sell all you possess and give to the poor, and you will have treasure in heaven. And come, follow me." But at these words he was saddened, and he went away grieving, for he was one who owned much property. Different reaction, right? A little bit different reaction than the guy finding the treasure in the field or the pearl, right? Jesus knew exactly what it was that was holding him back. He had an attachment to his possessions, for his property. And Jesus called him out on it and said, "You need to do this." Not, "Hey, no, we'll worry about that later. Come on." No. He said, "This or nothing. I'm sorry." 3 stories, totally different reactions to Jesus. Today, I want to talk to you about giving. And before you start leaving, we've got bodyguards so no one can leave, okay? And I only preach like 3 times a year, so you just deal with it, and then Matt's going to be back next week, and he's going to kill that, okay? So it's going to be great. But you're just going to have to stick through it, all right? We're going to be talking about giving. And as a disclaimer, right at the front, I want to be completely and honest with you, okay? We'd be very transparent. I am not a good giver, okay? I'm not good at giving things. I don't find it very easy to give things, right? There's love languages of, giving gifts, not me. My love language is free wings and half-price cheeseburgers, okay? Like that's my love language. It's very hard for me to give. I have to try very actively and intentionally to give. Kelsey will tell you, I love getting gifts. Like that's not my love language, is I love receiving gifts. So when I have to give up and give a lot of my time or money or energy, it can be difficult for me. So if you ever get a gift from me, I either love you a lot or Kelsey talked me into it, okay? So that's usually how it goes. But I'm going to be talking about something that may be uncomfortable, because it's uncomfortable with me, and I'm preaching to myself today. So if it doesn't apply to you, then tune me out. But if it does apply to you, and if it even offends you, I got Bible to back me up. So just take it up to the big man. Don't hurt me, okay? But we're going to be talking about something that can be somewhat sensitive. First off, before we start talking about giving, is giving even important? We have to understand that. Is giving even important? No matter what we're giving, is giving important? In every aspect of giving, is giving truly necessary? And so we look in the Bible and we see words that are repeated, right? So let's talk about prayer. Pray. Prayer is a pretty important word. It's in the Bible. How many times? 371 times. That's a lot. More than one per day. What about love? Love is in the Bible. Love is a very important word. That is in the Bible 714 times. So more than that, more than double of prayer. The word give, any guesses? 2,152 times the word give. We give because the Bible tells us to give, right? Now, let's ask the question, follow-up question, why do we give? Why even think about giving? Number one, and we're getting right into it, quick answer, because God gives. God is a giving God. We look at God's characteristics. You can call him, the healer, the forgiver, but he's a giver. He gave us so much. I mean, you look in the scriptures, he gives all throughout the Bible, even John 3:16, the most popular verse in the world. God so loved the world, he gave his only son. He gives because he loves us. We give because we love him. We give to others because we love them. We are to be like God. And the more we give, the more we become like Jesus. And isn't that at the end of the day, when you lay your head at night, isn't that the goal? I tell the kids every single day, just be a better Christian than you were yesterday. And if you keep telling yourself that, you're always going to improve. If we become more like Jesus every single day, it takes giving. It takes giving. We have to remember to give. And we have to also realize that, you know what? We give because Jesus gave. It's as simple as that. We have to follow his example. We have to be like Christ, right? Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Well, guess what? He gives. We have to give, and he gave so much. And it makes sense for us to just to even give so little compared to what he gave to us. Matthew 6:21 says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." The late, great Billy Graham said, "Show me your checkbook and I'll show where your heart lies." Man, that hits me hard. I'm telling you guys, I'm preaching to myself today because I've been meeting with a really, really good friend of mine who's very, very, very open and very frank, and he tells me like it is only because he backs everything he says up with the Bible. And this has wrecked me. For where your treasure is, your heart will also be there. And I understand, why do we give? Because we want to be like God, but that could be a daunting task, right? Like, okay, I want to give, but man, to be like God, I don't want to do that. That's too much work. It sounds like too much work. I ain't got enough zeros in my bank account to give like God gives, and I understand that. But God also commands us to, right? God also, listen, I didn't understand this when I was younger, okay? When I was in high school, I went to church like my junior and senior year, and I only thought the only reason we gave money to the church is because they didn't want their doors closed. That's literally what I thought. I was like, well, it's just a business. You gotta give it, right? And so if I don't have any money, I'm not gonna give them any money, right? And I even went to Ozark Christian College, and they taught on it, but it never sunk in. And I don't know if it was selfishness, I don't know if it was greed, or it was just misunderstanding of the scriptures. But God commands us to tithe. What does tithe mean, youth? Tenth. It means the tenth. And I truly never understood it. And so, as a pastor, you should, right? Like, everyone's expected, like, pastors, they don't cuss, they dress nice, they're well-dressed, obviously. And they give 10%. That's just the pastor thing. But the thing is, I've struggled with it. And guys, I'm telling you, I don't want to make you uncomfortable, but I want to make you uncomfortable just a little bit if you need to be. Because I'm preaching to myself. Because I've struggled with this really hard in the past month. And you can ask Kelsey. It's hit me really, really hard. And I want to be honest with you right now. I am ashamed of how much I've given to the church in the past 12 months. Not even the past 12 months, the past 5 years of my ministry. Of how much I've given to the church financially. I'm ashamed of it. Because I never saw it as okay, this is how I saw tithing at some points, okay? I saw tithing like replacing your air filters in your house, okay? Follow me with this. It's there. It's kind of out of sight. If you want to ignore it, you can ignore it, right? Just pass offering plate. You can ignore the air filters. You know it's important, but you forget about it and you don't see it. You don't see the importance of it, right? It can be often neglected if you want it to be neglected. That's how I view tithing sometimes. Because if we were setting our budget, the first thing, if we were getting cutting close and we had to make some cutbacks, my first thought, well, we just won't give that much. Man, that was a terrible thinking on my part. Terrible. And I sat down with Chip, our administrative pastor, Chip Boyd. I sat in his office 2 weeks ago, and man, I broke down. I had tears in my eyes, and he could attest to this. I had tears in my eyes because I honestly felt I was being disobedient. I didn't just feel it. I knew I was. Because, man, no matter how obedient you are, if you're 99% obedient, guess what? That's 100% disobedience. We have to be obedient. And I neglected the fact that I had to be sacrificing a little bit of my finances to God. I neglected it. And I looked at Chip, and I looked at my wife, and I looked at my mentor, and I said, listen, I don't care how hard it's going to be. or how I feel, even though I may not agree with it or may not feel it's the right month to do that, or there's other things pressing. I don't care. I'm making an oath. I'm promising to God, I'm giving 10. And I know this is not the occasional the regular sermon that you get on Sunday morning, so I apologize, but that's what I had to do. I had to look Chip in the eye and I said, I promise I will never cheat you guys again. Because I not only felt like I let him down, but my elders down, but my church down, but also my wife and my God. I felt as if I had disappointed in him somehow because I looked at what he said and I said, no, thank you. Have you had a kid do that? You look them right in the eye, it's very clear what you want them to do, and they say, no. Excuse me for a second, what did you say? You want to back that up and change it? That's what I did to God. And I vowed, I said, I'm not going to do that anymore. Every month, I'm going to make that payment. And I know you're not supposed to throw numbers out there, but I have nothing to brag about, okay? And so we have to understand, you guys are all in the church, you guys voted for my salary, okay? So you guys know, you're very well aware of what I get paid and what Kelsey gets paid. And so I don't want to say anything that's going to sound like I'm bragging in any way or anything, but I'm saying I'm making that commitment because I know it is a commandment by God and He is expecting me of that. And there is a month, and I don't say that confidently. I look at my finances and I say, man, I cannot. I'm scared. I'm scared. After I promised Chip, I'm scared to back out on it because I don't know what the future holds, how much I'm going to be able to afford, if we're going to be short that month, if we're going to be super tight, if we're just going to eat rice and beans. I have no idea. But I know if I don't listen, I am being disobedient. And if I'm being disobedient, how can I truly say I'm a Christian? How can I truly say I love God if I'm purposely ignoring Him? When the truth is right in front of me and I choose to look the other way. Philippians 1:6 says, I am praying that you will put into action the generosity that comes from your faith as you understand and experience all the good things that we have in Christ. Put into action the generosity. It takes faith. Man, what do you think Matt's been talking about for the past couple months? The Hall of Faith, Hebrews 11, right? About all the examples of faith. God trusted them with something, and they did it in faith, blindly, sometimes, because that's what it took. Listen, I don't understand tithing a lot of the times. I don't understand that if I need to pay something on here, why can't I just use? No, I don't understand it, but I realize that it is a God's commandment. And I have to trust Him. And man, God, if God makes you uncomfortable, it's probably because you're holding on to something you probably shouldn't. God says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil because that is one of the things that we treasure. The majority of the time, 99% of the time, issues in this world start with money. And we have to understand that that our tithing is an act of faith. I know I need this money, but God, I'm giving it to you because I trust you, because I love you, because you told me to. Guys, I'm scared to death talking to you guys like this. I'm scared to death. And if you don't have to listen to me, I promise you, believe me. This is tough. It's tough for me because I want to be a good father. I want to be a good husband, but most of the time that gets in the way of me just wanting to be a good Christian and a good follower. I want to be a good follower. I want to show my father that I loved him. And if I don't listen to him, how can I truly say I love him? Our giving will be an example to others. Man, that person does not make, I know how much that dude makes, and he's giving 10% a month. My mentor, as of this month, is not making more money than me. He was barely by a couple hundred. And now he's not making, I'm making more than him. Guys, I'm not saying I make a lot of money. If you ask, Chip, and church, we don't get in the church business to become rich. The thing is, my mentor, is not only giving 10%, but he's also giving a certain amount of money to the church each month just for the building fund. And he also has hundreds of dollars put away just to pay for people's, strangers' items, food, grocery items. He got a guy brand new shoes. He was at work and he saw this guy had really, really bad shoes, and he said, "Hey, I don't want to hurt your feelings, man, but would you mind if I just went and bought you some shoes?" And people say no, but some people say yes, so he'll take them to Walmart or to Ross or Kohl's, and he'll buy them a nice pair of shoes. Complete strangers. Because he realizes that this money is not his. His priorities are different than mine. So how many, I've heard an illustration one time, you're driving around, you stop at the drive-thru, and you have your little kid in the back seat, and they're hungry, right? They get fries. Sissy, now, my Demi is chicken and fries. That's all she wants to eat. You ask her whatever she wants, chicken and fries, and that's like the Happy Meal, like the $4 Happy Meal at McDonald's. Chicken and fries, and she'll eat the fries, and have you ever just reached over and just grabbed and stole one, and then they'll be like, "No, that's mine." You ever had that happen? And then you want to just like, "Excuse me? Yours? 5 seconds ago, you didn't have fries. You were living in a non-fry existent world, okay? And then I so graciously bought some for you and gave them to you, so don't talk to me about mine, okay? All right? I could take those fries away from you, or I could go back and give you a whole truckload. I have that power. I am the fry giver, okay? All right? And so we have to understand, like, that is the attitude. That's God. God is the fry giver. I know it's ridiculous to say, and I think like whenever that should be the quote of the day. God's a fry giver, and then everyone's going to McDonald's afterwards. So we have to understand God gives us things, and he says, okay, 10%. Generosity, helping a stranger out, sponsoring a bed at Water Gardens, picking up some food instead of just the food that you don't want in your pantry and donating it, actually just grabbing $5 worth of food and then donating it. I'm going to take that. No, that's mine. God's like, excuse me? Excuse me? We have to understand what we get is not ours. What we possess is never ours, was never ours, and will never be ours. We will never be able to take it beyond this life. God is giving us this small amount so that we can deal with the large amount in heaven. I was telling the kids today how the importance of, treating strangers kindly. Because if you can't treat a stranger with kindness, how could he possibly trust you to lead a group of people? If he can't trust you with a small person, how could he trust you with somebody that's great for like a spouse that's going to love you for the rest of your life? Remember that next time you treat your waiter or waitress like they just killed your goldfish or something. It's like, listen, they forgot your ranch. It's okay, all right? Ugh. 2 Corinthians 9:13. As a result of your ministry, they will give glory to God for your generosity to them, and all the believers will prove that you are obedient to the good news of Christ. What you do with your money will prove to others your faith. Proverbs 14:31. Whoever oppresses the poor shows contempt for their maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. If we cannot be good stewards and be generous, we are putting our eternity in jeopardy. It says right here, Luke 16:11. So if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches? What's true riches? Heaven. What you receive in heaven. If you can't be trusted with little, how can you be trusted with much? We have to be generous. We have to listen to what the Bible says about our money, and we have to follow it. Matthew 6:24. No one can serve two masters. Either will you hate the one or love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. It says you cannot. It doesn't say you should not. I don't know, maybe sometimes. It says you cannot. It is impossible for you to love God and to love money, to chase God and chase money, because they are two opposite sides of the spectrum. And it says you have to pick one. Don't be lukewarm. Don't ride the fence. Choose one. God would rather have you choose money instead of right in the middle. He cannot stand lukewarmness, riding the fence. I'm just going to start spouting Bible verses right now because I feel like everything I said before will be justified now, and you can't get angry at me because it's God's word. So, 1 Timothy 6, 17 through 19, command those who are rich, and we are rich. Even the poorest people in America are considered the richest in third world countries. I don't care who you are. Micah, you told me you don't have any money today. Like, you told me you literally have no money at all. We were talking about money in Sunday school, and she says, I have no money. I said, well, considering what you have, though, you're still rich. Even though you don't actually have money, where you live, the clothes you wear, the things you have, consider you to be rich. So, command those who are rich in the present world not to be arrogant, or not to put hope in wealth, which is so uncertain, but to put their hope in God, who richly provides us with everything for our enjoyment. Command them to be good, to do rich in good deeds, and to be generous and willing to share. In this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for a coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. And Andy, you've been talking about money, you've been talking about tithing, giving your 10%. I've been doing that every day. You're probably thinking that. I've been doing that every day. There's no problem with me giving 10%. I have no issue with it. You know, we have a family care ministry who I sat down through their budgeting class, and I was amazed as how always 10% first, right, Annette? Always 10%. It's non-negotiable. And I'm sorry that I never listened to your practices until recently, as a guaranteed 10% off the top. But we have to understand, like, maybe that's not your issue. Maybe you give 10%. Maybe being generous and giving to the needy is not a problem for you. But I'm not talking about just giving money today. The topic is giving in all sense of the word. Maybe you're not giving 100% to your kids. Maybe you're not giving 100% to your own children. Maybe you'd rather just come home, relax, turn on your phone, turn on your TV, get on your computer, tune out, go into the bed, and just get away from everybody, even though you've been at work all day. Maybe you're not giving 100% to them. I was talking to the kids today. I got really annoyed one morning. I was really frustrated, kind of trying to get out the door. I was going to spend all day with Demi, and so Demi, you need to get your jacket, grab your bag, grab your drink, and I'm trying not to, get irritated, but there's annoyance in my voice, right? Come on, let's go. Just grab your coat, and it's just like she's just playing. She's like literally doing that on purpose, and I was like, oh, okay, come on, please go. And so I was just grabbing the keys, and I'm talking to myself, and then I put the door, almost getting into the car, and then she's not moving. I said, Sissy, come on, let's go. And she said, Daddy? And I said, yes, Sissy. And she said, I love you. Got down on my knees, and I squeezed her cheeks, and I said, I love you too. I love you so much. I'm so sorry for the way I talked to you. I'm so sorry if I was annoyed at you. I wasn't mad at you. I was just mad at the situation. I let it, because you're 2 years old and you're not going to do anything. You're not going to hurt me, right? So I could bring it out on you. No. That was unfair. And I wasn't giving 100% to her at that point. Maybe that's your issue. Maybe is you have a lot of wisdom. You have a lot of knowledge. You have a lot of experience, but yet you're too busy being negative. You're too busy complaining about how maybe this generation, or maybe my son-in-law, or maybe my wife, and you just rather be complaining or not even say anything at all and just be negative. Listen, I've been there. All these things I'm about to list, I've done. So I'm not picking anybody out of the crowd. But maybe you have knowledge and wisdom and you're not willing to share it. Maybe you're not willing to give it. But I'm telling you, there is a youthful generation that is in desperate need of mentorship, of help. You have a problem with the way kids are acting today? Well, what are you doing about it? Are you spending time with your grandkids? Are you spending time with the youth? Man, the best youth sponsors I've ever had in my life, the best youth helpers, have been people over 50. I'm telling you. I mean, so I've had college-age kids that come up, or college students or other youth pastors that show up, and man, they're not that great of a help. But there's people that are older that realize and say, you know what, I want to spend time with these kids, and I want to share my life with them and experience my wisdom and my knowledge with them. Are you having a hard time giving at your job? Just clocking in, clocking out. Complaining about your employees or boss, or having passive-aggressive comments back and forth, having issues there. Are you struggling giving 100% at your job? It says whatever you do, whether you eat or you drink, you do it for the Lord. Are you doing it 100% for the Lord? This one, the next one, I've done before. Why do you come to church? Serve the Lord. Great answer. Unfortunately, not the greatest answer from everybody, right? I've been at the points where it's like, I realize it's chicken night. And honestly, sometimes that's my one priority motivation. It's fried chicken night on Wednesday. I gots to go to church, okay? All right, Andy, but you're paid to go to church. I don't want to talk about that. Fried chicken is the priority, right? Do we come for the free food? Do we come just so we can get and take? Or do we come to church for the reason that exists? And that's to be in a safe environment and to rid ourselves of our sinful ways and try to learn from one another and try to be more like Jesus. Are we doing that? Or are we just saying, well, I don't feel led in that ministry, so I'm not going to volunteer? Well, I don't like that person, so I'm not going to go. I'm not going to talk to that person because I don't like the way they look. I don't like the way they smell. I don't like the way they act. Shanique, I'm talking to you about me, okay? All right, you need to get over it, all right? You love me, and I know you do. Yeah. But just because someone looks different, acts different, talks different, has different sexual preferences, I don't care how different they are. You come to church and you love people. I don't care how much different they are. We are called to love, and we come to church to love and to learn. Kevin Hart, one of the funny comedians out right now, he says, like, going to church and not expecting hypocrites to be there is like going to the gym and expecting everyone to be really fit. It's like, right? Not expecting to see any out-of-shape people. It's ridiculous. Go to church for the right reasons and give everything you have to church. And one of the most important things in my life, last one, are you giving all you can to your spouse? I fail. Are you giving 100% to your spouse or your loved one? Putting every desire, every want secondary to theirs? Are you fighting for them? Are you giving 100%? We need to learn how to give. Now, I'll close on this. There's a story by Charles Spurgeon in one of his books, and I'm going to paraphrase because it's an old book, and I'll just kind of paraphrase. The idea is that this guy's having a conversation with a girl, and he says, oh, are you a Christian? She sees across, and are you a Christian? She says, well, yeah, I'm a Christian. And he's like, oh, really? What church do you go to? And she said, well, I believe, I'm a big believer in, the dying thief on the cross, the dying thief. He never went to church, right? And he went to heaven. So, why do I need to go to church if the dying thief went to heaven? So he said, oh, okay, where do you serve? Where do you serve? Well, the dying thief never served or volunteered, so that's not necessary for me to go to heaven. Oh, okay, all right. Then where do you give? Like, where do you send money to? Who do you support? What church do you support? I don't. The dying thief, you never. And then he interrupts and he says, you know what? I see that you admire the dying thief. I see you admire him the way he lived his life. I see that. That's very admirable. The thing is, you two are very similar, except for one difference. He was a dying thief, and you are a living one. We have to be careful of what we're investing our lives into. Whether it be our phones, whether it be our work, whether it be putting our spouse before God, our children before God, putting ourselves before the will of God, we have to give 100%. We have to be willing to give everything. And have you ever had the phrase of, like your mom's like, test me, see what happens. Test me, right? All right? God said that one time in the Bible. It's amazing. Malachi 3:10, bring the whole tithe into the storehouse that there may be food in my house. Test me in this. Test me. I dare you. I dare you, says the Lord Almighty, and see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will not be room enough to store it. That's God talking, man. That's so cool. That is so cool. God gave up literally everything he had. Literally everything he had so you could give up just a little. It says, test me. And right now, I want the 4 offering people to to stand up. Now, I want you to pull out your bulletins. I'm not asking for money. I'm not guilting you into give us 20%. No, I'm not doing that. I want you to write down on your prayer request, I would love to put your name so we can pray for you personally, but we're going to overload the prayer group on Tuesday night because I want you to write down on the prayer request. If you need to borrow someone's pen, rip someone else's paper to have your own, write down what you're going to give. Whether it's better to your spouse, more to your kids, more to your work, more to your church. Be specific if you can. Or if you're making a commitment like me and I say, listen, I'm going to start giving 10%. I'm sick and tired of being disobedient. Maybe that's what you need to do. Write it down. And we're going to pass these. As the music starts, we're going to pass these. And we're going to pray for you. So give them just maybe a minute or so. And then pass it so they can write. We have to understand, it says, test me. And see if I will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing that there will be no room enough to store it. He's saying, listen, test me. Give me that 10 and I will make it 100. Trust me in this little bit and I will give you so much you won't even know what to do with it. Trust me just a little. Step out in faith, just one step, and I will do thousands upon thousands for you. Give me this much, and I will give you many. Write down what you want to give, what you're going to give more to. Your wife, your kids, your job, whatever it is, give. Put it in the offering plate, and we're going to pray for you. Do not be afraid to give absolutely everything you have, because God did all of that for you. He's just asking for this much. Give that much of yourself to the people that you love.